And so many people, they hear McCall, they see how beautiful it is up here, and they assume that everybody's living beautifully and doing just fine.
Obviously, that superficial view isn't reality. McCall is experiencing the same crisis as most Western resort towns. The definite economic distinction between the part-time seasonal residents and those who live there full-time and work the service jobs year-round. You don't have to take a drive around Payette Lake or stop for lunch in a restaurant to know about the housing crisis in Valley County. But speaking of lunch, the McCall-Donnelly School District, well, they have a little more than 1,300 students enrolled, and about 20% of them were signed up for the free and reduced lunch program, meaning they would get at least one solid meal a day during the school year. But what about during the summer? This summer, that wasn't an option for two reasons: state and local government. For 2 years in a row, the state of Idaho either refused or neglected to participate in a federal program to provide debit cards to pay for food for kids during the summer. It would allow for a family to get a debit card for $120 per kid for the 3 months they're out of school. It was a program born out of the pandemic to cover for the loss of the school meal safety net. Idaho fully participated in 2021, partly participated in 2022, but then in 2023, either someone with the Department of Health and Welfare or the Department of Education under former State Superintendent Sherry Ibarra failed to fill out the proper paperwork to pay for a $15 million program. Then this summer, a similar program through the USDA called Sunbucks, well, that was axed from the health and welfare budget because several senators believed it was a socialist welfare bridge too far.
Having grown up in the former Soviet Union, this looks like ration cards to me. The state will feed you, clothe you, and shelter you, but there's something in exchange.
I think generally we'd be opposed to universal basic income, universal housing, universal food service. That's what we've got in this budget.
And now we're just seeking to give permanent food stamp EBT cards to kids, even if their parents make six figures.
The problem that I have with this is that it feels and it seems that we're trying to set up children to become welfare dependent.
That's what it feels like. Well, the health and welfare budget failed by a vote of 10 to 25, but passed later that day without the EBT program included. So very quickly, though, it's worth pointing out the income limits for the debit card program are the same as what it takes to qualify for food stamps, and it's not six figures. There was a worry during that debate that kids could just walk into convenience stores and use the card to buy, say, Monster drinks. They can't. And according to USDA data, convenience stores accounted for only 5% of food stamp redemption in 2021. Also, there is a work requirement for food stamps, and in 2023, Idaho extended those requirements to 30 hours per week. So this denial left about 107,000 eligible Idaho kids, according to the Food Resource and Action Center, without that option to eat this summer. Yeah, but you're probably asking, aren't local school districts already providing summer lunches? Well, most do, yes, but not all. For example, the McCall-Donnelly School District wasn't offering free lunches this summer. They did it during COVID, and they're looking into doing it again next summer, but that did leave a gap of about 3 months this summer for about 200 kids. And it took one person to take notice. 3 days a week.
All right.
For the last 2 months.
I'll get these all lined up, and then we can load up the bananas.
Elisa Knigge could be found.
Okay.
In.
Ooh, that breeze feels good. So right now I'm calling it the McCall Summer Food Program.
And out.
All right.
And then back in McCall's Community Center kitchen.
So we're having ham and cheese today, courtesy of the Forest Service and the food bank. I need 2 assembly line people.
Sorting sack lunches.
I can do that.
We need sandwiches over there and veggies and dips.
Wasn't exactly how Elisa planned to spend her summer.
It's not often you see somebody wants to do something.
I'm one of those people that if there is a need, I'm going to get in there and try to help. Kids not being fed in the summer is not okay. Right now, I'm making the sandwiches for the 2 boys that have pork allergy, since we're serving ham and cheese today.
But Elisa,
I filled a few lunch bags in my day,
is not alone in this endeavor.
and now you see so many young families not being able to do what we did with our kids. Anything to help that actually happen so that people can have the experience we had raising our kids here, super important.
The juice is in here. The community has come together because the need is so great here, and often these kids are forgotten about.
They were forgotten, Elisa says, when Idaho neglected to opt in to a $15 million federal debit card program in 2023. Then again, when Idaho's senators rejected a similar proposal for this season. And finally, this past spring, when the local school district didn't have plans to provide a summer lunch program of its own.
I thought, wait a minute, this can't be good for our families. And I'm thinking about who I see every day in our community.
But thinking about it
All right, so drinks.
wasn't enough for Elisa.
Well, my first focus was there's no way a kid is going to go without food on my watch. I have a Southern Italian mother. We do not do kids going hungry.
She says her first phone call was to the school district
Is it 10:45 already?
to find out how many would be losing out on lunch.
Last year, the McCall School District had 267 kids signed up for the USDA free and reduced meal program. Of those 260 kids, 205 were signed up for free meals. That is an indicator. They can help themselves to juice, and there's water, and grab a lunch bag. That is an indicator of the need in this community, because it is hard right now for people who are just trying to get through everyday life.
That's a situation
I'm so glad you guys are here.
Elisa is familiar with.
Because I've been there. My family has been there. We actually experienced homelessness when we were in Vancouver.
Several years ago, her husband was diagnosed with a brain tumor, while Elisa was struggling with an autoimmune disease.
There we go.
They spent 7 months in a homeless shelter, so she knows how tough it can be to go without. And are you seeing it here?
I'm seeing it here. It's frightening because we don't have the resources up here that I had access to in a more urban area, and I feel like it is absolutely our responsibility as a community, especially a smaller community, a smaller rural community, to step up. Does anybody need anything?
From that first phone call to serving that first lunch in June, they have.
We put it together in 5 weeks. All volunteers and donors, all of it. I never have to worry about not having help.
Nor does she have to worry if anyone will show up.
I think it's been amazing for this community.
I like to tell people I have the best job. I have the best job.
Elisa just hopes filling 40 to 50 bellies a day is enough.
Oh, it's more than a full-time job. It's more than a full-time job. I would do it 10 times over, though. Absolutely. Did you have a good lunch? Did everybody get enough to eat? Yep. I cried more tears of joy since I started this than I have probably in an entire decade. See you later, Gators. Bye. Thank you for coming. You know, humanity is a beautiful thing, and we should all embrace that more. I'll see you next time.
The McCall Summer Food Program filled a need so quickly they expanded to include Donnelly 2 days a week. And all of it is done by volunteers and donations, as you heard. Some of you may be thinking, well, this is a good example of why we don't need government programs. This should be handled locally by the community. And Elisa agrees, somewhat, but she says since it's the government in Idaho that has made legislative choices to make things more difficult for families, well, the government should supplement some of these programs at least. At least they can help with some food, she says. The McCall Donnelly School District told us today it's always been the plan to start their summer food program in 2025, so next summer, and they hope to stick to that.